Oxfam Cocoa Farmers Living Income Report has revealed that farmers' net income dropped by 16.38% between 2019 and 2022 harvesting season. According to the report, there is an urgent need for companies to adopt a new approach to help raise cocoa farmers' income.
This report's findings present a sobering but not necessarily surprising picture. Despite significant efforts by companies to raise the incomes of cocoa farmers in their supply chains in Ghana, there is little evidence that farmer incomes have increased as a result. The findings indicate that business as usual will not improve farmer incomes in Ghana. Without more pronounced and ambitious efforts, living income will remain an illusion for most farmers across companies' cocoa supply chains. According to the report, there is an urgent need for companies to adopt a new approach to help raise cocoa farmers' incomes. All efforts by companies to raise farmer incomes contribute to the goal of achieving a living income. However, they are not sufficient. Elevating living incomes as core priority for companies requires concrete policy commitments that embed living income in their sustainability programs and sourcing strategies. Even the best designed sustainability program is unlikely to address the structural barriers to raising farmer incomes, which sit beyond the individual farm or community levels. Addressing the living income gaps of cocoa farmers in a meaningful way requires a procurement-oriented approach that aligns procurement goals with living income goals. This approach uses sourcing practices such as higher prices, greater traceability, and long-term trading relationships with strong farmer organizations as levers for high incomes. From a living income perspective, productivity is an end in itself. Increasing productivity might lead to higher income, but it also might not.
We are joined on Zoom by senior researcher at Oxfam, Uvi Nathan. Good afternoon, and welcome to Metro Flash News.
Good afternoon. Thanks for having me.
Okay, so just moving on quickly, we would want to please find out, the report reveals that farmers' net income has dropped by 16.38% between 2019 and 2022 harvesting season. What were some of the issues that could have possibly attributed to this conclusion?
Yeah, we found, for the most part, two factors that explain the decline in income. One was a significant increase in the cost of production. We saw fertilizer prices increase by up to 200%, agrochemicals by 50%, same with the cost of labor rising up to 50%. And that combined with a decrease in yield over the three harvesting seasons that we investigated, where we saw almost 24% decrease of the bags of cocoa that farmers produced that were in our sample.
Okay, so what can be done to help cocoa farmers have sustainable income from their farming?
That's, of course, not an easy question to answer. Our focus was really on the role of companies and their responsibility to support raising the incomes of cocoa farmers. And what we have seen to date is that companies really have focused predominantly on raising productivity of cocoa farmers, which of course is an important part of the equation, but in isolation really doesn't help to create higher incomes, because investing in farms, of course, also costs money, so it might actually eat up the higher income. So we ask companies to actually focus on supporting lowering the cost of production, but also paying higher prices, which currently companies are not doing. We found that average kind of price premium payments companies pay were merely 16 cedis per bag, which of course is not sufficient.
Okay, so the cocoa value chain offers huge opportunity for prospective individuals. Why do you think that SMEs within that space find it difficult to survive in that terrain within the medium to long term?
That's a good question. From what we can gather, it is simply for a lot of small businesses or potential entrepreneurs a sector that is too risky and not lucrative enough to really invest in. And I think there's a lot that still can be done, especially on the local processing front of cocoa in Ghana. We just had Chocolate Week a couple of weeks ago, where I think the issue of local processing and local consumption was really front and center. I think the announcement of, aiding on accessing finance for small entrepreneurs, tax incentives, but also promoting kind of local chocolatiers that really bring Ghanaian chocolate brands, not only in the national market, but also in the national market, are really things that can be done to make this an interesting business sector for SMEs in Ghana.
Okay, thank you so much for the insight giving us on this subject. And that was a senior researcher at Oxfam.